to me, that's the ultimate thing that is necessary for a great relationship.
Why?
Without a safe space to be who you really are, you're going to be a shell of yourself and you're going to hate your life.
If you're not communicating authentically to yourself what your needs are, there's no way in heck you're going to be able to express that courageously, humbly, vulnerably to your partner, and therefore give them the opportunity, the chance to actually show you what of that they can be. Conscious couples, business partners, and singles committed to attracting their dream partner. Welcome to the Conscious Couples podcast, where we share our life, love story, and combined relationship expertise to help you create and consistently cultivate the most magnificent, intimate relationship possible.
Never again will you feel hopeless and alone in your intimate relationship challenges.
Having accumulated thousands of hours coaching conscious couples and individuals all over the world, as well as starting and growing a global business together, Alan and I are here to guide you in all things relationships.
Thank you again for tuning into the one place where it's not about you or me, it's about the we. Conscious couples and singles, welcome back to the one and only Conscious Couples podcast. Today we have episode number 126. Ooh. Why do I still feel lonely in a relationship? I think a lot of people inherently believe that a relationship is going to solve their loneliness. We are going to unpack that today. Before we jump into this episode, we want to give a huge shout out to Next Level Podcast Solutions for producing this show and so many others, and for spreading mental health, personal growth, personal development, self-awareness, self-development, self-improvement into the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do. We appreciate you so, so much. As always, my love, ladies first, what is your intention for today's episode?
My intention is for our listeners to learn some of the real reasons why we feel alone, even though we're in a relationship, and to use this episode as hopefully that starting point that helps them, if they're in a relationship, gear towards more community in their relationship. And if they're not in a relationship, then gear towards looking out for the telltale signs of loneliness and to hopefully avoid that in the future.
Okay, so you had a client who we've coached, that couple as well. Mm-hmm. And always we keep it anonymous here, private conversations, stay private. But we also want to bring the value from those conversations to others through the podcast. So
definitely.
What's the...
Yeah. So this is also, I want to just say that the story that I share here, and you and I were talking about this before the episode, is so much of a sentiment that I hear in my one-on-one coaching. And I'm sure you've heard this also, babe, when it comes to your one-on-one coaching.
Particularly with women.
Yeah. However, what I would say is, as a woman speaking with other women, I hear this so often. And so I'm really grateful that we're talking about this episode, because I know that these conversations that I have are usually behind the scenes in the back corner of alleys, where, you know, like it's people's safe space. And I'm super grateful to have that.
You're joking about the alley thing?
Yeah, not in the back alley, but really behind closed doors. And I want this conversation, this sentiment to come out more into the forefront of conversations and relationships, because truth be told, I think that it is a sneaky killer of relationships, because so many of us get into relationships with a fundamental misbelief, I believe. And
so statistically speaking, before we jump in, mm-hmm. Emilia and I like to mention, statistically speaking, this is something that applies more to women than men, but it does apply mm-hmm. to both.
Definitely.
And I think it's important, though. I think the women are really going to resonate with this.
So, yeah. And the men in this episode, listening to this episode, also will get some really great insight. I believe the men that I've spoken to that are open-minded have been actually really grateful to receive this insight. So I think
open-minded
both
men.
gendered. It's really wonderful.
It's a rarity.
Yeah, it's great. I am very fortunate to be able to coach and be guides to many of those open-minded men, and I'm grateful that they exist on this earth. So with that being said, the fundamental belief that a lot of us hold and get into relationship with is that our relationship is going to be the end-all be-all solution to inherent loneliness that we might experience internally. And so we get into a relationship and we think that we're never going to be alone. And we're never going to be alone again. That's why there's so much of a romanticism around relationships. I mean, if you even look at movies when we were younger, all of them have some through line, some storyline of the magical pixie prince saving the magical princess, right? Like all love stories are really wonderful, and we fall in love with love from a very young age. And then we inherently build and adopt this belief that when I get into a relationship with my partner, they're going to be either my everything, or they're going to be my best friend, or they're going to help me get away from this inherent feeling of loneliness as a human being. And so we romanticize it. And
but you've also said that the belief, you've seen a lot of, my partner can't be my everything. You've also considered that a limiting belief as well. So
1,000%.
I'm trying to guide here because on one side of this coin, we get into a relationship thinking we're going to be finally not lonely anymore.
Yeah.
And that is the first belief. But there's also another belief on the other side of this pendulum, which is my partner can't be my everything. I have to have friends. I have to do all these other things. And I think there's truth to that too, but let's unpack that.
Yeah. So 2 beliefs, and that's the second one that ends up developing. I believe we get into relationships really with a internally aspirational belief when it comes to relationships. That is, my partner is going to be my everything. I'm never going to feel lonely again. And it's this really like happy, romantic, joyful belief that
and then the honeymoon
formed.
phase usually validates that.
And then we start to get into relationships and we start to realize like that's actually not necessarily what is my reality. And therefore, to try to make sense of why that isn't the case, we start to cultivate this second belief, which is my partner shouldn't be my everything, and they can't be, right? So that's
an overswing from the
exactly that's a protective mechanism type of belief, because of the fact that if I come into this relationship with this inherent belief that my partner is going to be my everything, my best friend, my lover, all this stuff, and then that's not my reality, what do I have to do in order to get it there? And usually a lot of people don't know even where to start with that. So for example, one of my clients, my one-on-one clients, had came to me recently and had talked to me about, and again, we'll keep it anonymous, but had talked to me about how the relationship that she had been in was on the verge of ending. And I believe at that point it was ended, but you know, kind of in that phase of should we work it out? Should we not? And back and forth and trying to figure out what is going on here. And when I had asked her, you know, I want you to check in with true self, like what's kind of going on here. We ended up in a conversation that really got into her true self. And her true self felt liberated by the prospect and by breaking up with her partner, because of the fact that what we learned is that she tried to tell herself a story that she didn't need in her partner, a best friend. And she had said that my protectors are super excited and they're super liberated. And they said, well, duh, you should have left that person a year ago. You should have never done X and Y and Z, which was essentially her moving forward in the relationship even deeper, despite her intuition full well knowing that this wasn't her partner and telling herself
who else has been
otherwise.
there. If you're on YouTube, we're both raising our hands for sure. Who here has ever known that this was not the right person for you and then stayed anyway out of fear of being lonely or fear of not being enough or fear of not being loved or some sort of fear? I have done that.
Yeah. So with this, I think that what's really powerful in this that we pulled out and really sunk into even deeper was that, you know, I talk a lot with my clients that are in relationships when it comes to their relationship about their relationship standards, meaning what are the things that you want to have in your relationship? And more specifically, in order to have that, who do you need to become to attract that? And one of the standards that we got very, very clear on through this kind of revelation, and that's what happens sometimes with breakups, hindsight's 20/20, and we just are able to really throw ourselves into our reality, the needs, the wants, the desires that we tried to tell ourselves a story that we didn't need, want, or desire. It comes very, very clear. And you get that sense of liberation about the future of actually being able to own that for yourself.
I picture Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic at the front of the ship. I had a relationship in the past that ended, and I literally did that in my car alone. That's how liberated I felt.
Yeah.
And that can be the feeling of just, I've been so suppressed by my own fear because you're so afraid to be alone or to not be loved that you stay in something that isn't aligned, and then you try to make it aligned even though you know it's not aligned, which makes you farther and farther and farther from true self. But I digress.
1,000%. And so the really clear through line that she had so much sobriety in saying in that moment was, I need in my partner a best friend. And we had that like woof moment together where that was her need that was so clear and so pure and came from her true self. And then I asked her, how much has your partner actually been that? And even tried to be that? Like, first of all, how much have you communicated that authentically to yourself? Because if you're not communicating authentically to yourself what your needs are, there's no way in heck you're going to be able to express that courageously, humbly, vulnerably to your partner, and therefore give them the opportunity, the chance to actually show you what of that they can be, like you have done for me. And she said, I haven't really communicated all that much to that, but I have. And she kind of went back and forth and like, yeah, no, I have actually. I have tried to say, this is what I need. This is what I want. I want my best friend and my partner. And we aren't having those deep conversations, and we aren't emotionally connected, and we aren't having vulnerable friendship-like conversations in this relationship. You're not my safe space. And she went back in the Rolodex of all the things that she did do to try to invest in helping her partner be that for her and help cultivate the love that she needs in the relationship. And that's where she had that humbling moment that no matter what she does, her partner is not hearing that that's what she needs in the relationship. Not only is not hearing that, but doesn't want to accept that and isn't willing to bring his version of that into the relationship.
Well, as we talked about,
that's locked it.
Prior to this episode, is there wasn't enough humility there to actually accept that that's what could be or should be.
Yeah.
And again, this gets really challenging, but you mentioned one thing in there that I wanted to pull out.
Mm-hmm.
Safe space. So you and I went through, prior to hitting record, 5 or 6 things that, because I asked Emilia, I said, this is something women deal with all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I do think that whether it's sitcoms or marriages that don't have vulnerable men in them or whatever, statistical, I should say traditional patriarchal relationships, that the man is blocked off from emotional availability.
His inner world.
And we've all heard that quote or seen that quote on Instagram, most likely, where you can only meet your partner to the extent that you've met yourself. And so if your partner has not done any inner work, we all know those people that are like bobbers. They just stay on the surface always.
They run away from
it's
it. They turn a blind eye to it.
have a relationship with people like that.
Pretend
because
it doesn't exist.
Where's the depth, sir? Can we talk about anything other than these sports teams, please? If you put half that passion into your own self, you would be magnificent, right? So again, and I guess that's all protectors, trauma, this, that, and the other thing. And I go on podcasts often, and the men it's hard for me sometimes because they just don't want to go deep.
Right.
Statistically, some of them do. Some of them are great. I went on an 1.5 hour one recently that was phenomenal with a man. So this is, again, not all men, all men. But statistically speaking, more men than women. And I think everyone understands that. Women tend to be more emotionally available than men. Boom. That we're going to leave it there.
Women tend to be conditioned to be more emotionally available. Fair. And men traditionally tend to be conditioned in the opposite direction.
Absolutely. Right. Never let them see you sweat. Vulnerability is a struggle. I didn't even learn about vulnerability until I was 29.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Hi, I'm Derek, and I just wanted to talk about relationship talks with Alan and Emilia. If you're looking to get some help on working with your relationships, you should definitely give them a shot. They can help you identify certain patterns on things that maybe you didn't realize that you've done or that have happened. And if you want to be able to just start really kind of narrowing down the things that you can work on now that'll help you be more efficient for future relationships or even the one that you're in, they're definitely the ones to go see, as clearly they lead an example of what a great relationship should look like. And just in general, they're both incredibly intelligent and smart with just being able to pick out the things that maybe either you missed or that you knew but didn't really quite click yet. So you should definitely give them a shot because they're very, very helpful and efficient at what they do.
Okay, so these are the 5 things that we had mentioned. I asked Emilia, I said, what is it that girls that have girlfriends, not girlfriends as in intimate, but friends that are girls.
Mm-hmm.
What do they have that women crave so much? And she said, they talk about their fears. They talk about their struggles. They talk about things they don't talk about with men. They talk about their hopes and their dreams, and they talk about the inner depths of the inner world together. And that's what she was missing in her relationship. And quite frankly, the male in this relationship, and I know him as well, again, keep it anonymous, he was a bobber. He didn't want to go into the depths. And he didn't have the humility to realize that there is depths and that depths are valuable. And so at the end of the day, and I know I've been guilty of this in my past too, because I think that I was emotionally immature in hindsight. And of course, as you become more mature, you realize you were more immature. So that's part of I don't think I was any more emotionally immature than other men, to be honest with you. But I also know that I was emotionally immature compared to now. And I can only imagine how you would feel in a relationship with me if I couldn't talk about my fears and my challenges and my truth and what's really happening behind the scenes. I can't even tell you how many times I come to Emilia and I talk to her about what I'm struggling with. I did that today.
Yeah.
Earlier today, I was on the couch in a humble, elbows on my knees moment of, I'm struggle bussing on this thing. How do you deal with that? And then you told me that you have this whole growth plan and all this cool stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we got back on the same page and here we are. So go us. But ultimately, if you're out there and you feel like your partner is not emotionally available, it's like a vault. We saw Inside Out 2. We highly recommend it. It was magnificent. And at the very end, there's this part, if you wait past the credits, where
this is Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2. That's what I said.
You just said Inside Out. You didn't do the 2. I just want to clarify, because if anyone's watching it and past the credits, do you mean Inside Out 2 or Inside Out 1? Sorry.
No, Inside Out 2. I think I did say Inside Out 2.
It's okay.
Okay. We'll check it out. All right. So an Inside Out 2, we went to see it, and it was magnificent. Better than the first one, in my opinion. But there's a vault that I think is very metaphorical for what men do, is they take any insecurities or any signs of weakness and lock them down. Perceived weakness. There you go. Credibility. They just armor up and they lock it. Vault, baby, lock down. Do not let them see you sweat. You are adequate, you are intelligent, you are articulate. How dare you think I said the wrong movie? I don't say wrong movie. I will have to go double check my credibility. That is a very inherent man thing. And when you allow that to when you don't let your partner in, how are they supposed to know who you really are? And that's gotta suck. So yeah.
Oh, that just hit me in the heart, because that is exactly what the moment that I had with this client. And honestly, it's not just this client. I have this happen with a lot of clients.
How many female clients have you had that have struggled with this?
Every single one of them. There has not been an exception to any. And this is not just heterosexual women that I have had in terms of clients. There's also homosexual women that I have coached, and they also experience this.
Yeah.
So I do not believe that it is just a gender thing, and also men too.
How do you, that's another episode, but masculine and feminine energies, polarities attract. How do you hold a masculine energy and still be emotionally available? That's got to be a great episode. We should do that.
I love that conversation because it's such an art. And I think it's really wonderful to be able to have that dialogue regardless of what your sexual orientation is. And I think that that's actually where so much gold is for so many people that are on such the end of rigidity around their gender stereotypes and their gender conditioning when it comes to how you show up in a relationship. Because it struck me in the heart, because when I was having this conversation with this client, it was like, oh my God, I'm so grateful for my relationship and the work that you and I have done. Because what I shared with you in a gratitude actually last night was like, yes, you have those trap doors and keep things close to the vest, and we all do to some extent when we get into a relationship, but it's the work that we're willing to put in.
Do I really
to
though?
unlayer
I don't
that.
feel like I
you are like less than any other partner that I've had personally, and I do know that that's been unique to you. And when I look at the sample set of individuals, everyone brings their certain baggage into the relationship.
Yeah, of course.
But not everyone is willing to unlayer that baggage and clip the strings to whatever that anchor is.
That's where all the growth is.
I agree.
That's where a lot of the growth is. I mean, I do think you need to learn the economy and business and finance and all that
1000%.
stuff, but
1000%.
a lot of the growth is there. That's how you evolve.
I agree.
Okay, so one last thing. So you mentioned safe space.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have had each other as a safe space from the moment we met. And there was only one moment where you had said, and that scared the hell out of me, that I feel like lately it hasn't been a safe space for me. And I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Holy crap. And so I obviously handled it perfectly fine.
You understood the value of that. That's
of course,
the thing.
honey. I
Not
didn't-
every guy does, though.
Well, I was emotionally unavailable because of these goddamn events. No.
But what I'm saying is you understood the value of that. Not a lot of guys do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, to me, that's the ultimate thing that is necessary for a great relationship.
Why?
Without a safe space to be who you really are, you're going to be a shell of yourself and you're going to hate your life.
Thank you for saying that, because that is exactly what I said to this partner or this coach. This client about her partner. He is actually becoming a shell of himself, and he is actually starting to hate his life. And we had unfortunately shared that is what is going to happen if they continue down the lack of humility train.
One last piece of this too. I've noticed this. So I coach many, many women as well. And I've noticed this trend for sure. And the NLU team is amazing, empowered women, 80% at least. And I've noticed that this is a pattern for sure, particularly again with men, but it is both.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is necessary is, and this is a fear that they have that I've noticed, once I leave him, he's going to transform and open up, and all of a sudden he's going to be his true self.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a weird way, he's so afraid of being left that once you leave him, his deepest fear is met. Now he has nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think everyone's kind of playing not to lose and not playing to win. And I know it's a kind of metaphorical thing there, but you can't play that whole close to the chest.
Yeah.
Never let him see you sweat. What is that? It's playing not to lose credibility. It's playing not to lose perception. It's playing not to look dumb or be imperfect. Playing not to be imperfect is the dumbest shit ever. And honestly, it ruins your life, because this episode, I've made several mistakes already.
Same.
And we're going to put it out and whatever. No one's perfect. I don't even want to be perfect. I just want to be better.
Yeah.
But I understand. I do. I remember in the past, I definitely had some of that that fake smile that's not real. And the last thing I'll say is I realize this, and this is a little side tangent, and then we'll get out of here. I have something that I'm calling the inverse human law. I don't have a good term for it, but I journaled about it earlier today. The people on social media who are appearing to be the most badass, quote unquote, are actually inside the least badass.
You and I had examined someone's Instagram yesterday,
last night,
being very candid
quote
about
unquote
it.
badass, and it's that whole, I'm too cool to smile, I'm not going to be light and playful, I'm a
It's almost
hardcore
like
badass.
pretend stoicism.
It is. It's pretend stoicism. And you know what's interesting is the people I know some people that are lighthearted on social media, that are smiling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, me like a goofball on the
you and I
basketball
said,
court yesterday. I've got my hair. I look like a
But
fruit.
you are a badass
Thank you.
in real life.
Thank you.
That would annihilate someone, just like I would.
That's something that I want to give every listener or viewer. The person pretending to be a badass almost certainly isn't. Because if they actually were, they wouldn't have to pretend.
Mm-hmm.
It's a front. It's a vault. And we'll have to do another episode another time, but essentially that's what's happening is the person's deeply insecure. They're scared of who they really are. They're scared to be made fun of for who they really are. They're scared that they're going to fail, or scared they're too much. Most likely the first one.
They also don't know who they are.
They don't know who they are because they haven't gone to the depths. And I want to say this too. Sorry, babe. Therapy. It is a must.
Mm-hmm.
It's an obvious must. I didn't do therapy till my 30s. I'm a man. I make this joke all the time. We can't even ask for directions, never mind get a therapist. It is so obvious to me now how necessary that is. You literally sit on a Zoom session or in person with someone and just talk about yourself and your life, and you unpack everything in the vault, and you just become this free, amazing human. So thank you, sweetheart, for suggesting therapy. Thank you, Alan, for having the humility to actually do it.
Seriously.
Eventually. Eventually. I had one specific therapist that I wanted. But shout out to anyone out there doing therapy. Shout out to anyone out there being their true self. Shout out to anyone out there who isn't doing fake stoicism, because really it's very toxic.
Yeah. And providing in your relationship also a therapeutic setting, because it's what I would say to kind of bring this full circle into our relationship. Loneliness is actually something that I believe and is so much of a wonderful part of the human experience. Yet when our partner isn't the person who can help us self-soothe in our own loneliness and doesn't create a very nurturing, safe environment to be able to dually share individual loneliness together collectively, I think that that is actually a ripe situation for a plethora of issues in a relationship. And what I mean by that really is people get into the relationship to not feel alone, when ironically they're going to be alone if they get into it thinking from that lens. Instead of, if you were to come in and say, I actually love who I am. I love my individuality. I want to understand who I am. I love the way in which I make mistakes, and I love how I do it and all this stuff. And I'm going to bring that into my relationship. And I'm never going to be alone because I understand who I am and I understand what I am and all of my parts in the systems.
You and I didn't get into our relationship to solve loneliness.
No.
We were already, I decided in advance, if I have to be alone for the rest of my life, I will do it. And you said the same thing prior, and we should do another episode on that. But thank you all for listening. Yeah. Is your partner sharing who they really are? Are they sharing their goals and dreams and hopes and aspirations? Are they sharing their fears, their struggles, their vulnerabilities, their challenges? Are they creating a safe space for you to do the same? The suppression of self-expression leads to depression or eventual explosion. Be very, very careful. And that's what we've got for you today. Okay.
In closing, my last sentiment on here, also, if you have a belief that pouring into the challenges in relationship is going to fuel more negativity in your relationship, that is a limiting belief. And that was one of the crux that we're here for, not only this client in particular, but also other clients. The facade of, I don't want to pour into that because it's going to be negative, that actually turns a blind eye and is, I would say, the coward's way out of actually facing real challenges and real struggles in relationships. And so, I want to say that in closing to kind of round out this episode, because a lot of people are like, no, that's negative. I don't want to deal with it. And the truth be told, they just haven't been able to play in that depth. And so that's not actually truly negative. If you just don't know how to handle it, that's a coward's way out to try to pretend like nothing's wrong. So a deeper
episode. That's how you have a surface level relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yep.
Where everything's fine, even though nothing is.
Right.
I've been there. No good.
Yep.
So if anyone feels like anything in this episode is something that you and your partner are struggling with, reach out. We have Relationship Talks coaching. The difference between coaching and therapy is we're still going to help you with all of the inner work, but we're also going to help you achieve your goals and dreams together. We've got couples that are buying houses, getting engaged, doing all the things, magnificent careers, grow. If you want to grow together, not apart, Relationship Talks coaching, the link to book your first half-hour free session. We always go over. We almost always go over because of me. Yeah. I'm long-winded. Seriously, book, check it out. And we hope to hear from you soon.
Shout out to our listeners all over the world who are sending us DMs. Very excited to book their next Relationship Talks coaching free session. We got reached out to by a listener out of the blue, and I love when that happens, and I cannot wait to meet them.
Where are they from?
I have no idea. All over. But I do know that they're moving. So I'm really grateful for those of you who have felt safe and comfortable enough to reach out to us, because truly we are so eager to help, and we deeply believe that love can be built every single day when you put in the good type of work, and finding that person that you click with that can change your life and make your relationship 10,000 times better is the most powerful tool in the universe. And our clients would stand by that. So reach out to us, like Alan said, and book your free Relationship Talks coaching session. It is literally a game changer. Also, while you're in the show notes, please sign up and register for our next free live virtual event. This is going to be event number 37, actually. And it's going to be digging into all things on the topic of how to prevent your devices from destroying your relationship. Far too often we hear the story that our partner is choosing to play games or video games or work late or whatever. Their devices is the choice over the relationship. And that is destroying relationships at a faster rate than we can even fathom. And we don't want that happening.
I read a statistic recently where the first thing that a partner touches when they wake up is their device, not their partner.
Yeah.
So sad. Sometimes that happens with us because you're still nights, and I don't want to wake you up, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all so much, as always, for listening. It's not about you or me. It's about the we. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Conscious Couples podcast. We love connecting with the Conscious Couples community, so please make sure you follow us on Instagram. I am at Evolve with Emilia, and Alan is a Lazaros 88.
Also, if you or your partner resonated with this episode, leave us a review at the link in the show notes, and please share this with someone you love and care about.
Until next time, remember, it's not about you or me. It's about
the we.